Hey guys, it's Kristen with ISeeStarsQuilting.com. Welcome back to my channel. On December 3rd, I debuted my 12 Days of Quiltmas Quilt. It's a project that I've been working on with 11 other YouTubers, and if you haven't seen it yet, you need to go check it out because the response that I have gotten from that quilt has been phenomenal. I didn't expect that. I literally did not expect the enthusiasm that you would have for my ugly quilt, okay? Now, I am actually not calling my quilt ugly. I'm going to come out right now and say that I think my quilt actually turned out pretty cute and I'm really happy with it. But what I didn't show you in the video was a ton of detail on the quilt. If you wanted the details on that quilt, all the different blocks that I use, please make sure you finish this video because that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So here is my ugly Quiltmas quilt. First question I want to answer is this adorable backing, this like Santa avocado situation here. If you are looking for this fabric, is from Joann. The next question that I want to answer is this fabric on the side where I quilted in the snowflakes, right? Aren't those pretty? It's polka dotted fabric. The background behind all of my, well, on each of my blocks, this is like really bulky here in front of the camera. The background on each of my blocks is a solid white fabric. Inquiring minds want to know, Kristen, why did you do polka dotted fabric on the side? The answer is very, very simple. Kristen only did polka dot fabric on the sides because she wanted to do polka dot fabrics on all four sides of the quilt and do a big, nice, chunky border with snowflakes in it. But I miscalculated my fabric. As simple as that. Now we have a nice rectangular size lap quilt and the polka dotted border is only on the side. Here is a tip that I'm going to share with you when you are doing something that is spontaneous and you're making it up as you go. If you're making it up as you go and you're using what you have and making things work, there are no rules. Your rules are the only rules. So that's what I decided was this can work. It's going to be a nice rectangular shape. I have had a lot of requests for the pattern for this quilt. Now, here's the thing. There is not a pattern out there that was designed by somebody else for this. I mean, there were so many ideas flowing, but I figured somebody else already got those ideas, right? Because in my brain, we have to make this hard so that nobody else does the exact same quilt that we do. Crazy logic? I know, okay? So what I did was I went on Pinterest and I started looking at block designs and I found two different blocks that I wanted to incorporate into my pattern, okay? I like the idea of kind of like a checkerboard, like 4 of the Christmas balls and then 5 of the Christmas trees, okay? And I liked that idea because that seemed like it was incorporating multiple different styles and multiple different types of blocks. Now, when I show you these blocks, you're gonna be amazed at how easy they turned out to be, okay? They're really, really simple. That was my other rule for myself on this, even though I kind of ignored it, was keep it simple. I thought it was going to be ugly and I didn't need to spend, you know, my whole life working on this quilt at the time. So let's look at the blocks in a little bit more detail. So here's a photo of the Christmas ornament block. It is a really, really easy block. The first thing that you notice when you look up close is how I put together all of the ugly fabrics. Guys, I cut them into jelly roll strips because if you have an ugly fabric that does not go with any other fabric that you're working with, but you somehow have to put it in there, cut the pieces smaller. Cut the pieces smaller so that your eye is not focused on that one piece that doesn't like exactly go, okay? Cut them smaller. So if I had made each of these ornaments or each of these trees a certain ugly fabric, it would stand out big time. Now, it will showcase the fabric, but That wasn't a requirement in this project. I didn't have to showcase each fabric on its own. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted with the fabric, as long as you could still know what the fabric originally was. I made them into jelly roll strips, and that's how I assembled these blocks, right? I just, I cut the fabric up, I sewed it together, made 9 different blocks, right? Like the right shape block. And then I added on the white background to that block. And I made sure that the fabrics stacked on top of each other in a different order so that there wasn't any commonality between them, okay? Because there's things that your eyes will see in design. They will pick up on something repeated, right? They will pick up on something repeated. They will pick up on fabric when it was far, far too busy, when it is surrounded by simple plain fabric. And it will also tend to rest in an area where there's simple plain fabric surrounded by really, really busy fabric. So what I did, again, was I had enough background to balance out the busyness of this quilt, okay? This is just taking you through the steps that I did while I was preparing to somehow get all of these fabrics together. So if you look at the very center of the Christmas ball fabric, it is essentially, it's a square, and I snowballed it by adding 4 pieces of fabric to the corners, okay? That gave me my circle shape very easily. Could I have cut out a circle and appliqued it on there? I absolutely could have. Did I think about it at the time? I absolutely did not. So that's what I did, but I wanted to make sure that it was framed in there as well. So I added the borders around the side, and then to make sure that my ball had a top, I added another strip across the top with some fabric in between to make the ornament shape. Another thing that I did was I really experimented with the quilting in these. Each of the Christmas balls has a different design in them than the Christmas trees do, okay? And then the background is just a very simple, delicate meander all the way around there. I just wanted it to not take away any focus from the busyness of the fabric. I wanted the background meander stitch to just kind of blend into the background and not be anything that drew your eye directly to it, because these fabrics have enough of that going on, okay? So that's what I did. But the thing is, if you look up close, there is a bit of a flower design on here. It's kind of made out of circles and loops and things that are really, really fun. And then at the very top of each of the ornaments, there is a poinsettia that is quilted in there. It turned out really, really cute. It's kind of one of those things that, like, I know that detail is there, but everybody else is going to be drawn to these crazy fabrics and the design of the quilt, but later on they may get to notice the little details and appreciate it a little bit more, right? Let's talk about the trees. My first secret here is they're sewn into jelly roll strips again, this fabric. Again, breaking it down into smaller pieces, but I kept them vertical, okay? So we're working with straight, simple lines no matter where you're looking in this quilt. Here is actually a picture of the entire quilt, and it has all of the, essentially the makeup lines of this quilt. Now, this is one of my tips, one of my tricks when I am looking at a quilt pattern, okay? Or when I'm looking at a quilt that's in a store and I'm thinking, how on earth did they do that? I start looking for grid lines, okay? Now, if you're looking at paper piecing or something, that's completely different, okay? But start looking for grid lines, okay? You can see in my quilt here that there is 9 different blocks and 2 borders on the sides. Then if you look at each block and break it down even further, you still see that grid line. There is some diagonal lines on there, but that grid is still there, and it makes it really, really easy to start to see how things come together when people are sewing the quilt, so that you can replicate that at home, or it makes it easier to just understand the pattern because you realize you're working with simple shapes. You're not working with this like ambiguous, crazy, curvy, impossible to sew line. You're working with simple, straight angles and regular sized shapes that you already know and can totally do at home. So the same on the trees is I added 2 side angles to the tree, which did overlap at the very, very top of the tree. I probably could have figured out an easier way to do this, but I made it simple, okay? I made it simple. So they do overlap at the top, and it's kind of like a funky way to the side angle, right? And then down at the bottom, I added a strip that had just the little trunk of the tree in there with the crazy quilt fabrics. And that's it. It's those 2 blocks repeated over and over again with a different set of jelly roll strips, okay? So it's that simple. I feel like with the feedback that I got from this quilt, it should have been like really overly dramatic and fun and like amazing and hard to do and all that, but that's not how I do things, right? I love things that are simple and easy to make, easy to figure out, but have that finished product of something that is just, wow, how did you make that? I want to know how to make that. Where's the pattern? And you know what? I'm going to call this a success because that's exactly what happened. Okay, let's talk binding real quick, and then I will go and move on to my piece de resistance, the little cherry on top. And my absolute favorite part of this quilt is those cute little stars, okay, on top of each of the trees. So I love stripy bindings. I love them. I think it adds a little bit of fun to the quilt, and it makes it a little bit unexpected, especially if you don't have any other stripe in your quilt. I think it's a preference thing. There's nothing wrong with solid bindings or scrappy bindings or anything like that. So this one I used a red and white stripe. It's very fun. It brings out the red in some of these like ugly fabrics down here. By the way, if you're wondering which fabric that I contributed to this group, it's this one right here with the snowman. That's not the best. Here they are again. It's this one with the snowman. And no, I don't think they're ugly. I think they're adorable. So what I went for with the snowman was hard to match colors. These are cute, but they're not Christmas colors. We got some orange, some purple, some pink. I love it. And then there's some green in there too. So they're not ugly, but they do stand out because they don't match the rest of these fabrics at all. And apparently some other people went with that same theme, right? So here is the binding. The binding picks up the red colors in some of this, and then it matches really, really well with the back of the fabric too. It just kind of adds that candy cane subconscious connection that your mind has with Christmas, right? Onto the very last detail on here. So if you've watched some of my videos recently, you have seen, let's do a quick recap. So this past summer, I broke my shoulder badly. I had to go have surgery on it. I had to recover for a very long time, which meant no quilting for Kristen for months, and it was rough. But in order to make myself feel better and make sure that I was not losing my skill and my creativity and going crazy and driving my family absolutely insane, I decided that that was the perfect opportunity for me to get more into hand sewing and embroidery, and I absolutely love it. I've been getting better. I've seen improvement, and I wanted to add that little hand touch to these. At least in my family, a lot of the sentimental items that we have, you know, those handcrafted ones that are one of a kind, and that's what I wanted to add to this tree, and that feel of handcrafted one of a kind. Now, this quilt alone is definitely one of a kind. Nobody else makes this quilt on purpose. But I went and I added these stars, okay? I fused these stars on here, okay? And then I went with embroidery thread and I made each of them different. So here's one star. Here's what the other one looks like. Here's the third one, and then here is the final star. Nobody else is going to have these stars on their quilt the way that I did them, and I think that's fun, okay? I think that's really, really fun. Another detail that I want to share with you on this quilt is these snowflakes that are in the corner. I made these snowflakes with my long arm machine and quilted them on the borders in multiple different sizes, kind of like snow falling, okay? And I think that it came out really, really well. I love the snowflakes. It was so fun to watch as the snowflakes were coming to life and the border is showing up, and it's just adding that extra Christmas spirit to the overall feel of the quilt. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really, really appreciate all of the love that I have gotten on this quilt, all of the comments. I am floored. I'm amazed. This whole ugly Quiltmas thing has been so much fun to work on. I hope that you are checking out everybody else's video. I don't have a pattern for this yet, but I'm going to try over the holidays to try and get one out to you. It's not going to be by Christmas. I can't lie. It's not going to be by Christmas. Everything is so busy right now. I do not have time to write this pattern, but hopefully for some of you advanced quilters out there who can understand how I made these blocks and see the lines that I showed you earlier about like the makeup of this quilt and the grid and all of that, you can kind of sort of fudge your way through the blocks and once you see how it is all put together. So for everybody else, I'm hoping that I will have a pattern to offer you sometime mid-January. I know, I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with Christmas, but that's the way life is right now. So thank you for understanding that. If you have any other questions on the makeup of this quilt that I did not answer, make sure you leave them in the comments down below. I read every single one of my comments and I answer every single one of my comments as quickly as I can, okay? Because I truly love you and I appreciate you, and thank you for supporting my channel. If there's anything that I can do for you, please let me know. I'm Kristen with ISeeStarsQuilting.com. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and you hit the little bell so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.